Today's episode is brought to you by my friends at DonorPerfect. It's an all-in-one fundraising software solution that helps fundraisers save time and raise more money. In fact, new DonorPerfect users typically raise 25% more funding in their first year. DonorPerfect is trusted by over 50,000 nonprofit professionals with everything they need for efficient fundraising, so they can spend their time where it truly matters, on nurturing real, authentic relationships with their donors. Learn more at www.donorperfect.com. Now on to the episode. Hello, and welcome to Nonprofit Nation. I'm your host, Julia Campbell, and I'm going to sit down with nonprofit industry experts, fundraisers, marketers, and everyone in between to get real and discuss what it takes to build that movement that you've been dreaming of. I created the Nonprofit Nation podcast to share practical wisdom and strategies to help you confidently find your voice, definitively grow your audience, and effectively build your movement. If you're a nonprofit newbie or an experienced professional who's looking to get more visibility, reach more people, and create even more impact, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, hi, and welcome back to Nonprofit Nation, or welcome to Nonprofit Nation if you're listening for the first time. I'm your host, Julia Campbell. Today, we are going to talk about a topic that I'm pretty fascinated with, the practical uses of artificial intelligence, AI, especially during peak fundraising seasons. So with the end of the year being a particularly hectic time for nonprofits, how can AI tools help streamline processes and improve efficiency? And I have with me today, Julia Gackenbach. And Julia has spent over a decade working locally and globally with nonprofits. And this has sharpened her skills to raise funds, care for donors, and communicate impact. Her experience, tied in with her desire to create community through a mission, gives her unique passion to work with all types of organizations. And Julia now uses that enthusiasm and expertise to lead communication strategies from DonorPerfect to industry practitioners. So Julia, welcome. I don't usually meet many Julias. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here. We'll try to keep track of which Julia is which throughout the conversation.
Yes, it's really interesting. I do not meet many Julias, and you're a lot younger than me. So my mom named me after the movie Julia, which I think is from the 70s, but I don't know where your parents got your name from, but
I'm named after my great grandmother.
Oh, beautiful name.
Yeah.
Well, what drew you to fundraising technology? How did you get started in the sector?
Yeah, so I am a proud accidental fundraiser.
Mhm.
I worked for a nonprofit in the kind of program area of the organization, and then kind of stumbled into fundraising, which I think many fundraisers experience that.
Mhm.
They just one day start making asks and writing appeals and looking at donor data, So ended up from my nonprofit into some fundraising roles. And then the way I got into fundraising technology is I suddenly had to rely on technology to tell me about the people who had been giving to my organization for 20 years, or about the people that are responding to my emails, or whether or not the social media post is going well. It kind of just was required of me. Luckily for me, I love data, and it gave me a lot of lessons in data. So it was always so interesting, but it was never intentional. And I think that, again, that kind of happens in the fundraising world a lot, is you just end up in these places and you sink or swim. You got to learn these technology things. You have to learn what's cutting edge. And that's a lot of the things that's happening with AI right now too, is a lot of people are just seeing that this is happening in the sector and they want to get on the boat. They want to find out what's going on and they want to be part of it, but they don't know how, which is why I'm really excited to have this conversation today.
Exactly. And there are so many myths and misconceptions out there, because in my dealings with a lot of my clients and a lot of my course students, I see on the one hand enthusiasm and real passion for trying to use new tools to make the donor experience better. But then I do also see some really well-founded skepticism and not truly understanding what these tools are. So I want to dive deeper in our conversation into these implications, of using AI in the sector and using AI in fundraising. So what do you see are some of the major benefits of integrating AI tools into fundraising efforts? And like, I know we think and we see, you and I are see eye to eye, that it can maybe lighten the load for fundraisers. So what are maybe some of the benefits?
Yeah, I would say that is the most glaring benefit, is lightening the load. The other day I had coffee with a brand new development director. They've been in their role for a year. And the first thing I said to them was, what have you learned since you've been in your role? And she responded, I am now a communications person. I am a web designer. I am a major gifts officer. I am a database manager. She has 7 jobs that she just learned in the last year. She works for an organization that gets government funding, so she's like knows all about these laws and all these things that she didn't know before. So for me, the importance of AI is lightening that load in those areas where it's like, I didn't know I was going to be a communications manager. I thought I was going to be a fundraiser, but the communications came alongside. And so this AI tool can kind of be like another employee. I know I'm preaching to the choir for all of the nonprofit employees listening here. You never have enough people on your team. So this, like, you relying on this tool, this AI tool, can be sort of like having another person on your team, having a writer or a strategist, if you know how to communicate with the AI correctly.
The way that I see there's different buckets of artificial intelligence. People think that all maybe certainly when I started out doing research on this topic, I was thinking of AI in one sort of way, like it's either chatbots or it's predictive analysis or it's data analysis or it's generative AI or it's creating videos or it's creating photos. There's so many different realms and sort of different pillars and like different buckets. But what is sort of your vision for how fundraisers can use AI in their day to day, especially during these kind of crazy busy peak fundraising seasons?
I think there are many ways. It's complicated because it's such a wide open space. You could literally go to AI and ask it, is there a new way for me to tie my shoes today? And it will tell you some weird way to tie your shoes. There's endless information. So questions that you have bouncing around your head, you can ask AI and it will give you some kind of response. For me, on a daily basis, I like to turn to AI for like developing my ideas a little bit further. So, for example, if I were working on a Giving Tuesday campaign and I said, okay, I want to go from 25 monthly donors to 100 monthly donors. That is my goal for Giving Tuesday. I want to use Giving Tuesday as a theme. I want people to give as soon as possible, but I don't really have much more to build in. What are some unique ideas that I can use to stand out from the other millions of asks that these people are going to get on Giving Tuesday? And so AI can help me deepen those ideas a little bit, reach outside of my own brain, kind of like bouncing ideas off of other team members, which is really helpful, especially as I mentioned, if you have a smaller team and you feel like you need a little more brain in the room, AI can kind of be your outside brain. So that's one way, is to rely on it for some ideas and for some creativity. The more practical thing that I would use AI for is to help write things. So in the way that, for me at end of year, and people can debate about this all they want, I did 10 emails over the course of quarter four. I'm not saying that 10 emails is the right amount of emails, whatever. This is just an example.
I don't think nonprofits send enough emails.
Well, there you
So
go.
I'm fully on board with the 10 emails in Q4.
Yeah. So I did 10 emails, but by email 7 or 8, I feel like I'm saying the same thing I said in email 1, 2, 3, and 4, you know? So using AI to say, okay, I have a 10 email campaign. All of them will have the same ask. All of them are in the same theme.
Mm-hmm.
How do I differentiate these emails?
Mm-hmm.
And that way I'm not banging my head against the wall trying to decide the difference between the word maximize and transform, you know?
Mm-hmm.
AI will help to really make those emails flow together in a campaign, but not be repetitive.
So to clarify for newbies, people out there, and it's completely fine if you don't know what we're talking about. We might have gone from 0 to 60. When you're saying AI, what are you specifically talking about, Julia? Like which tools?
Yeah, so there are a few tools out there. There are some generic ones like you've heard, you know, ChatGPT or Claude AI, things like that. But there are also really specific ones, which I'm a very proud DonorPerfect employee because for many reasons, but one of the reasons is because we have built a fundraiser bot.
Yes.
It's an AI tool that has been trained specifically for fundraisers and will help fundraisers to build the right appeals or the right social media posts, things like that. So there are general AI things, but then there are some niche AI things like this DonorPerfect fundraiser bot.
Exactly. So I played around with this bot for one of my clients. So you go to DonorPerfect.com. I'm actually typing right now, bot, and you're going to enter your email. Then you're going to enter your organization name, your author name, your persona. So whether you're a development director, executive director, board member, event manager, and your website URL, which I think is key because it's going to pull in your information. Then the next step is, what is your audience? Are you talking to a monthly giver? Are you talking to a prospect? Are you talking to a donor? Do you want an email? Do you want a social post? It really helps you. It's not a blank page like ChatGPT.
Right.
It's very much like a drop down menu of all sorts of things. And I love the tone. So you can pick a tone. I recommend, just in the purpose, purpose is raise awareness, communicate impact, ask for support, express gratitude. I just recommend with like playing around with this tool just to see the kinds of things that it can create, especially with your mission statement, your call to action, your donate page. And, the thing is, what I was saying to a client, because I sent it to a client and they said, well, we like to write our own emails. And I said, I know you like to write your own emails, but that what you just said, Julia, you might have 10 emails that you need to write. Okay. And you might be looking at a blank page at 2 a.m. It's easier to write from a draft. And if you think of it like an intern, this is how I think of ChatGPT. And I say this all the time. I use ChatGPT as my generative AI tool. I know a lot of people like Claude. A lot of people might use Gemini. I mean, there's a million of them. But if you just look up ChatGPT, it's a blank page, but you can ask it anything. And it's almost like having that assistant or that intern to guide you. And sure, you're not going to cut and paste this information and then send it out to, 3,000 people in your email list.
Please don't
right.
do that.
But you are going to use it as a sort of a breeding ground for ideas. So, I'd love to learn more about the fundraiser bot. How was it generated? And how have fundraisers been using it? I'm sure they've been using it in lots of crazy, amazing ways.
Yeah, it's been great. The fundraiser bot was created by fundraisers. So the reason that those fields are there is because fundraisers spoke into what fields they need in their emails, which is vital. What if you went to a, foot doctor when you had a sore throat. That doesn't make any sense. We want fundraisers to be the ones identifying what is needed for fundraisers. So that's first and foremost, that this was built by fundraisers. Secondly, the production of this was it was vital for us to make sure to check the boxes of things that can be left to interpretation. For example, you mentioned the tone. So you could put all that information in the website, the ask, additional details, things like that. And then at the end, you can select a positive and kind tone, and it will give you one email. And then you can go back and you can select a
cheeky, wait, what is it?
Yeah.
Oh, clever or witty.
Yeah, or fun and energetic or whatever. Yeah. And it'll give you a whole nother email because the tone will change. Another thing that I love about it is the persona that you mentioned at the beginning. Mm-hmm. I was a development director, but the amount of times I wrote an email on behalf of the executive director, mm-hmm. and this does that for you. You say this is an executive director. The bot knows that executive directors are a little more to the point, are a little more clear on what they need, or could be a little more passionate because maybe they're the founder and the executive director, So it has this background persona stuff that is really helpful for me because I was writing not only some emails from a development director, but some emails from an executive director. And it was easy to just switch that drop-down menu and get 4 different emails all along the same topic, which is the most important thing. And to your organization that says they want to write their own emails, they are writing this. Mm-hmm. There are fields in there where they have to say what details they want in the email. If you want to have a personal story, an AI bot isn't going to know that personal story. You have to tell it. I think that's one of the things that people are most afraid of is that, this bot is not going to know everything I know about my donors. This bot is not going to be able to be as passionate about it as I am. Yes, that's why you are needed. Like this bot cannot replace you. You know your donors, you know your organization, you know your programs. But like you said, Julia, this bot can give you a springboard. It can lay out some ideas for your email, and then you go in and pepper in the things that are important to you. Pepper in your signature that always says the same thing, like, for the world or whatever your signature is. You can put it in there. The project isn't done as soon as the AI generates the email. You copy the email, put it in your constant contact, and then edit it. That's allowed. It's okay. But this gives you a starting point, which is great. And again, for the DonorPerfect.com/bot, this is asking the questions that we know need to be asked for an appeal email. So you don't even have to think, oh, did I include a CTA? Okay, is it pulling my mission in here? Okay, what does it look like? What is the ask amount? We're already prompting you to ask those things.
Created by fundraisers, and I absolutely love that. I'm a big fan of using generative AI in particular, artificial intelligence tools to synthesize documents, but also to create minutes. I don't know who else has to write thousands of minutes from meetings. I'm on the school committee and I have to write all these minutes, but it's really great for synthesizing information also. But really I just think any tool that you can use to play around, to experiment, to test things, to give you new ideas, to spur creativity is a great idea. So how have you seen AI tools helping in donor engagement and retention? And are there, particular strategies that have proven effective in this area?
Yeah, so I actually maybe have a controversial answer to this.
Oh, I want to hear about it.
I would say that I wouldn't rely on AI to do your engagement and retention. Here's why. Those are the parts of fundraising that require specificity for your organization. Your givers give to you because they are heart tied to your organization. One of the downfalls, I would say, for AI is making sure that your appeal isn't exactly the same as someone else's appeal. You could literally go to ChatGPT and say, write me a fundraising appeal. copy and paste it and send it out. And someone
Oh,
could have just asked AI that same exact thing and sent the same exact response that AI gives, which again is why I love the DonorPerfect bot, because it's much more specific and you add all of your organization's information. But there is an importance of the fundraiser or the nonprofit employee to be part of engagement and retention. You can't use AI to pull yourself out of those places. So I would say you can use AI for ideas. Go to ChatGPT and say, what are some ideas for helping to retain my donors? What are some ideas for helping to engage my donors? But AI isn't going to do those things for you. That's still part of fundraising. Like, AI literally cannot replace fundraisers because there's such a personalization element that AI doesn't have.
absolutely. I agree with that. So how can AI tools, how can they assist with data analysis and just sort of making better decisions in fundraising campaigns?
This is something I love, is using AI for data analysis. Now, there's one thing I do want to preface. It is not wise or safe to upload donor information into AI.
Right. I think you just, what do you do? Like put it in Excel sheet and then remove all the identifying information and
Yes,
then maybe upload it. Yeah.
yeah, which is very, very important. So do not, for those listening, if this is your first step, welcome. First thing to know, do not load people's identifying information into your AI, because AI is a generative tool that relies on information from multiple places. And so you're adding that information in. It's teaching the bot things that maybe you don't want the bot to know. So just be careful with your donor information in any scenario, not just with AI. There are definitely times where you just need to protect your donors, and here's one of them. Which, Julia, you and I have talked about this. Like, there are definitely some ethics behind using AI, and we want to make sure to respect our donors and to respect our organization. We at DonorPerfect have signed the fundraising.ai framework that talks about ethics when using AI in fundraising. If you want more information about some of those ethics, you can check out fundraising.ai. They're a leader in the space and they have a lot of information on how to use it ethically. But all that to say, once you are using it ethically and have removed everyone's names and identifying factors, you can load your DonorPerfect reports. If you're a DonorPerfect user, as Julia said, export the report to an Excel, take out the identifying factors, and then load that into your generative tool and ask for trends. What trends do you see about Giving Tuesday based on my givers? And the AI bot can say things like, it seems like the average gift is this amount. Maybe next time you can ask for that amount plus $5, and that will help you raise more next Giving Tuesday. Or it seems like most people gave at 10 a.m. And then you can look back and see, oh, I sent this appeal at 10 a.m. So that means that people responded well to this appeal. Or I posted this video on social media. Maybe people really responded to video instead of email. You can look at some of these important factors about behaviors, about donor behaviors, and AI will help you see some of those trends. So I remember spending hours on top of hours just poring over my data reports, trying to find some threads in there that would help me understand anything. And now we don't have to do that. We can just say, okay, here are the reports I'm using. Can you find some threads for me?
Yep. You can also upload what I do, my social media analytics, because that doesn't have any identifying information. And then my email analytics, just the reports in terms of subject lines, open rates, click-through rates, because what I use ConvertKit, which I love, but what they don't do is provide an analysis of the data. So like they'll give me the data. They'll say, here's your best performing email. Here's the best click through. Here's the this of this, but there's not really an analysis and trends over time. Like what words work? Do emojis work? Do 6-word subject lines work versus 9-word subject lines? So what I love is I can put this data into my chat GPT, which I love. And I use the paid version, but I think the new chat GPT is even better than the paid version, but I pay $20 a month. I don't mind. It's fine.
Worth
I
it.
love it.
Totally
It
worth it.
saves everything. It you could upload PDFs and videos and everything like that. But I upload my data and I almost use it like I would hire a firm to
Mhm.
say, analyze my reports in the last 3 months. What's your recommendation on when I should send email, how often I should send email, the number of words I should use in the subject line? I mean, it really is, it gives you this insight that you might not have. And I think for donor analysis, I know a lot of organizations do use it to say, do, positive subject lines work better?
Mhm.
Does the word donate in the subject line work? Does Giving Tuesday work? Because we can, like you just said, pour over these spreadsheets for hours and hours, but we don't have hours and hours to do that.
Very true. And I've even done things that are like gamifying the replies from AI bots. So, for
Oh,
example, I've done like, okay, let's play a game. I want to learn more about subject lines. Can you tell me two subject lines? And one of them will result in a great open rate, and one of them will result in a not as great open rate. I will decide which of the two is the better one, and you tell me if I'm right and why. And then
wow. I
I
love
just
that. Then
had,
it's fun.
it is so fun. And like the first one was way easy. And so I responded, okay, this is my answer. That was too easy. Give me a harder one. And we just like kept going back and forth. And it was kind of this learning game where I could see the reasons why one subject line may be better than the other. And by the end, they were very tough. There were like
Mm.
very small changes between the subject lines, but one had a better open rate than the others, and the bot would tell me why.
I think that's so interesting. And all of this is backed with your data. It's not
Mm,
made up. It's actual, it's based on your organization's data. I think that's
right.
so interesting. So, we know that these tools, they offer a lot of advantages, but what are some drawbacks or challenges that nonprofits might want to be aware of when
Yeah.
adopting these technologies?
Yeah, I think there's a few. One, like we mentioned, the ethics behind it. You just want to make sure that you
Mm.
are caring for your organization and for your donors. Two, you definitely cannot copy and paste the things that a
Yeah,
AI
without
bot tells
checking.
you. Yeah,
Exactly.
this stuff can be a little bit of a mess. There could be some grammar mistakes. There can be some things that are maybe untrue. Like I said, the ChatGPT is giving you responses based on a world of information. So it may say something that is untrue for your organization. Like if you said, hey, we're taking part in Giving Tuesday and we are an organization that has a shelter. Will you please write a year-end appeal about our shelter? AI could write it about like a shelter for animals. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
you're not an animal shelter. You're a different kind of shelter.
AI wants to please you. I think it's
Hmm.
almost like, think of it like a child. It will tell
Yeah.
you what it thinks you like want to hear because it really wants to please you.
Hmm. Hmm. Definitely. And that can be dangerous because then
Hmm.
you can rely on it and trust it and whatever, and suddenly it's saying something that's untrue about your organization. So highly important, and it's a pitfall of AI. You have to review it. You have to make sure it's okay. The
Hmm.
other thing is it can be difficult to learn how to prompt AI. You
Hmm.
have to have some very specific things to prompt it with. Like I said, you have to say animal shelter. If you're an animal shelter, it might give you some other kind of shelter if you don't. Or you have to be able to tell it, no, that's wrong. I meant this, this, and this. Can you please rewrite based on my reply? Or you have to learn how to prompt it, which again, that's why I love the DonorPerfect bot, is because you don't have to prompt it so much because you fill in your fields before the prompt. So with the general AI tools, you have to make sure you're using the right prompts and prompts that will get you what you need. Sometimes it's hard for me. I'll have some ideas in my head and like I picture myself like hitting myself on the side of the head,
Mhm.
words falling out of my ears, you know?
Mhm.
How do I get those words to AI? Can sometimes be tough. So I think that's one of the pitfalls of using AI is it's not a human. It doesn't understand the things that you're trying to say all the time.
Mhm. And just like once again, the analogy of an intern. So you have an
Mhm.
intern that comes to your office. You can't expect the intern to be a mind reader.
Right.
And the intern, you might say, okay, go file these files, but you need to tell the intern, I would like them
Mhm.
filed alphabetically, or I would like them
Mhm.
filed by location, or I would like them filed by specific project.
Mhm.
That is how I think of AI prompting is if you have an assistant or you have an intern, or even if you have a child, right? Like I just even think of loading the dishwasher, something so easy. My kids now know you can't just say load the dishwasher. I mean, I had to really specifically be like, this is how it needs to be
Right.
loaded. You have to show them, or doing laundry or anything. You can't necessarily just open up ChatGPT and say, write me a fundraising letter
Right.
because they don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about your past fundraising letters. They don't know your tone, your brand voice, anything. So the more information you can provide, it really is like an employee. You have to think about it as almost holding their hand a lot in the beginning and throughout. And then, of course, like you were saying, Julia, the fact checking, the constant checking for errors, because we can't assume that they're perfect because nothing is perfect. No human is
Right.
perfect. No AI bot is perfect. Um, oh, this is so interesting. So
Well,
how?
and I'll say, I don't know if you ever had this, but I remember in eighth grade when I was learning creative writing,
Mhm.
and my eighth grade teacher stood at the front of the room with a jar of peanut butter, a jar of jelly, and some bread. And she said, how do I make a peanut butter sandwich? And we said, you put the peanut butter on the bread. She took the jar and put it
Yes.
on the bread.
Yes.
So this is very similar. Like, explaining to someone how to make a peanut butter sandwich who knows how to make a peanut butter sandwich is quite easy. But explaining to a robot how to make a peanut butter sandwich and you just say, put the peanut butter on the bread, they're going to take the jar of peanut butter and put it on top of the bread. You have to explain. You open the jar, you use a knife, scoop the peanut butter, use the knife to spread the peanut butter on the bread.
Yes.
You have to do the same with these prompts for AI.
I love, love that. Oh my gosh. I've never heard a better explanation of how to prompt AI because I think
Mm-hmm.
we all have the curse of knowledge. We all assume that we know what we know and we assume everyone
Mm-hmm.
else knows what we know. But that I'm just my brain, my wheels are spinning. That's such a good analogy. So how
I'll
do
say
you
thank you to my eighth grade English teacher.
Yes, and I definitely had something similar, like a how to explain how to do something in
Mhm.
in simple language. But how
Mhm.
do you envision the role of AI evolving in the sector over the next few years?
Oh my goodness, this is such a hard question because it came on the
I
scene
know
so
it
fast. It
did.
was so fast.
And it's smarter now than when we started our conversation.
For real, it's growing like crazy. I honestly, in my opinion, I think it will continue to grow. I think AI will continue to learn, which we need to do the same. Humans need to continue to grow and learn so that we can use AI continually. If we're not growing and learning, then we won't be able to use it to its full capacity. So I think it will continue being used. I think it will become much more prominent in the fundraising world. Right now, I obviously work at DonorPerfect, which is a tech company, and it's like way full force ahead in tech. I think it will become much more prominent in fundraising over the next few years. So my recommendation is to get comfortable with it as soon as possible. It's not a threat to you or your job. As a writer, sometimes I'm like, what's going on with this? Is this a threat to my job? And it's not
Mhm.
because it still needs the human element. So I just highly recommend becoming part of this movement as early on because I don't think it's going anywhere, but I think it will continue gaining traction, getting smarter, being able to fill in more gaps. And the other thing about it is that's encouraging to fundraisers. I had such a hard time getting out of my office and going to my program. I had such a hard time seeing the kids that were affected by my organization. If I had used AI more reliably and more consistently, I would have been able to get out of my office more and go see what we were raising this money for, go see the impact that was happening in my community. This would take a lot of the office work out of what I was doing. And I would be able to do the more fun, important, life-giving things, which that's valuable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. So where can people find more about you? Where can they connect with you and DonorPerfect and
Sure.
find out more about all the services you offer and the fundraising bot?
Yeah, I personally would love to connect on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Julia Gackenbach. For DonorPerfect, you can find us at DonorPerfect.com. And the fundraiser bot, very easy URL. It's DonorPerfect.com/bot.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to remember.
Yes. Well, this was fantastic.
It's
Do you
so
have any
good.
advice for those out there that are still a little skeptical? How can we not to convince them, or maybe they're excited, but maybe they want to convince their boss?
Yeah, I would say start small. Maybe you have a social media post and it's 4:30 on a Friday and you're scheduling it for tomorrow. Try using AI. In my family, we say a lot of fail when the stakes are low. So like taking risks when the stakes are low, I think applies to AI as well. If it's maybe you're working on the minutes from your last staff meeting, load them into AI, see how AI organizes them, or ask AI what next steps you should take, things like that. Fail when the stakes are low. I know, in my opinion, you're not going to fail, but for the sake of those who are maybe a little bit trepidatious, go in saying, okay, the stakes are low, worst case scenario, I fail, and there's not much risk here.
Right. I think my very first thing I typed into ChatGPT was, give me some recipes for Whole30.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it gave me a million amazing recipes and a shopping list and organized it by sections in the store. So
stop it. That's pretty good.
It was pretty amazing.
I haven't done that.
But fail when the stakes are low. I mean, the stakes were very low for that. I thought I would just, experiment with that. And then as you get more comfortable, it really is like an employee. As you get more and more comfortable, the trust is built up. You start to understand the language. Then it starts to get easier.
Their gaps. You understand what gaps you have to fill in. The same way with a new employee. You know that this employee is not great at data. Okay, I need to fill in the gaps for data. You'll find the same to be true with AI. You'll know what the gaps are.
Thank you, Julia, for coming on, for telling us all about AI and the trends and how to use it and the sort of the who, what, when, where, why. I'm so excited for my listeners to hear this episode. So I really appreciate you and can't wait to see what's in store.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, hey there. I wanted to say thank you for tuning into my show and for listening all the way to the end. If you really enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, and you'll get new episodes downloaded as soon as they come out. I would love if you left me a rating or a review, because this tells other people that my podcast is worth listening to. And then me and my guests can reach even more earbuds and create even more impact. So that's pretty much it. I'll be back soon with a brand new episode. But until then, you can find me on Instagram at JuliaCampbell77. Keep changing the world, you nonprofit unicorn.